I quite often get suggestions about videos that people would like me to make. So a few weeks ago I got some of those suggestions and I put them out on this channel as a poll. And this was the results. And what you can see from this is that quite a lot of people wanted to see a what's in my bag video, probably because it's been through a lot of changes recently. There was also quite a few people that were interested in an update on how I'm getting on with various things that I've changed. I guess like my camera gear, but I specifically mentioned my computer setup and some of the software that I'm using. So what I'm going to try to do today is combine those two into a single video. And hopefully that way I should be able to please almost 60% of you. For those of you that voted for the basics of layer masking, I'll do something on that a little bit later. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, and you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe before you go. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. So if you've been watching my recent videos, you'll see me carrying this setup. This is what I take out on most trips. So I'll talk you through it, and then as we get towards the end of the video, we'll cover the bit about the computer and software. So let's start off with the tripod. This is the tripod that I normally choose to use. It's the Winston 2.0 from Three Legged Thing. And I choose to use this one because it's fairly large, very stable, not too heavy, so it's easy enough to carry around. I do have a second tripod which is a very lightweight, like a travel tripod. This is the Brian, also from Three Legged Thing. I don't use this one very often, but it is nice to have a nice lightweight tripod occasionally when I really want to strip the weight down. There is likely to be another tripod video coming at some point in the future. We have to wait for that one. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on these tripods because I did a video on both, or I've done several videos actually on both of these tripods. And what I'll do is I'm going to stick a link up there now to a playlist all about tripods. So if you want to check up on what these are about, how they work, what I think of them, check out that playlist. This is a Lowepro Flipside Trek 350. And the reason I chose this was for a number of the features. First of all, it was lightweight. It has the main camera compartment opening from the back here. So it opens up like this, and I like that design, I like that style, because I like to stick the bag on the ground and then use this area inside as a working area for swapping lenses around and that kind of things. The bags that have entrances through the side or through the top, I just don't find as convenient. Personal choice, but there we go. I also wanted a bag that had some extra storage space, which this one's got. It's got space in the top here for non-photography stuff, so clothes and snacks and other bits and pieces. I wanted one that had straps on the side, like these ones, because I like to mount my tripod on the side. I hate having the tripod mounted on the back. One is I just find it unbalances me more, but also if you put the tripod on the back, every time you put the bag down, you're putting the bag down on the tripod, or you've got to take the tripod off every time you put the bag down. So I just prefer mounting on the side. I wanted some side pockets for putting drinks in, and I use these bottles for water. These are Aorin bottles. They're kind of a thermos type bottle, keeps the cold stuff cold and the hot stuff hot. I also wanted a long pocket in here that was separate to the camera compartment, and there's a long pocket here that goes right the way down into the bag, and that's useful in the winter for clothes, waterproof jacket, etc. But in the summer I tend to use it for my water bladder, 3 litre water bladder. I can put that into that back pocket, keeps it separate from the camera gear, lets me route the hose over my shoulder, and I can drink from that, and I avoid getting dehydrated, which is always a potential problem here in Spain in the summer. The bag is actually quite good. I'm pretty pleased with it actually. It's got a couple of little extra pockets sort of in the hip belt here. It's pretty comfortable. I wouldn't want to carry a lot of weight in it because these hip belt padded areas are not very big, so it doesn't distribute the weight perhaps as well as some do, but it's not designed as a heavyweight bag. Let's start off with the camera. This is my Canon M50. It was originally my video camera. It's now become my main camera for landscape photography. I did a whole video on why I chose to use this instead of my old full frame gear that I used to use. And if you haven't seen that, it's called Gear versus Location, and I'll stick a link up on the top of the screen now for that. So Canon M50, it's a 1.6 crop, 24 megapixel mirrorless camera system. I have on it a small rig L bracket, and the reason I went for the small rig is it is designed specifically for this camera. So it has this cutout at the bottom here, which enables me to access the battery compartment and the SD card compartment with the bracket on. A lot of L brackets, and indeed a lot of ordinary tripod plates, block access to that door. The small rig one doesn't. It also has a nicely offset kind of upright bit here, which allows a reasonable amount of flexibility with the screen. You can turn it all the way around, you can put it in quite a few different positions. It also has this wooden hand grip on the side, which kind of extends the profile of the camera a bit. I've got to say I wasn't sure about that when I first ordered it, when I first got it, but I've actually come to really like this now. It just makes the camera feel a lot more solid in the hands, you know, for either for handheld shooting or for you know, just putting it on and off of the tripod and things like that. Lens wise, the lens that's on it at the moment is the 11-22 lens. It's probably the nicest built of all of the M-mount lenses that I've got. It feels nice and solid. It's a simple lens. There's only really one control on it, which is the lock control, because it locks down closed and opens up like that. Everything else you access through the menu system, and that's true of most of these lenses. But it's a nice lens. Importantly, the image quality is excellent with this. Also in here, I have my 55-200 lens. There's no controls on this at all, but it's a nice lens. It works well. It feels pretty nice. It doesn't feel quite as nice as the 11-22, but it still feels like a nice, well-built lens. It's plastic, but it's still nice. And again, the image quality is excellent. Third lens, which to be honest I only carry it with me just in case, and it's very, very light, is the 15-45 kit lens. It's the least nice built of the lens. It's the zoom action on it is a bit kind of clunky. Image quality is okay at the longer end, you know, kind of 20-45 millimeters. Not great at the wider end, it's a bit soft. But I wouldn't use this one for the wider end. I'd use the 11-22 anyway. But it's okay, and it weighs next to nothing, so I just keep it in the bag. And the final lens I've got in here is the newest edition. This is a 28mm macro lens, which was a bit of a gamble because it's not an overly long lens for macro, but I've played around with it on a few shoots, and you know, it works pretty well actually. It's nice and sharp. It's got an interesting little gimmick on it because in here there are two LED lights. because one of the challenges, actually I'll just pop that on the camera quickly. One of the challenges with a short macro lens is you have to get very, very close to your subject, and that means you're often casting a shadow on it. With this, you can put on these little, if I turn the camera on so it's powered, you can put on these little LED lights, and it just helps to illuminate the subject. It's got 2 brightness settings. It's a bit of a gimmick, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be any good, but I've used it a few times, and you know, it does help sometimes. So yeah, it's not bad. It's quite a neat little lens, and I've been happy with the results I've managed to get from that. I think the most important thing I can say about this camera system is, in a little over 5 months of use, there hasn't been a single occasion when I have wished I had a different or better camera system with me, either out in the field or looking at the images back on the computer. I've always been happy with what I can do with this camera. Also in here I have my filters. Now these are K&F Concept filters. I've got in here, I've got a pair of magnetic filters. That's a magnetic circular polarizer and a magnetic 10-stop ND filter. I also have in here a screw-on 10-stop and a screw-on variable ND filter. The reason for that, well, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on these filters. I did a video review of the magnetic filter system, and that explains what I've got here and why. So again, I'll stick a link to that up in the top of the screen now. Also in here I have a selection of cloths. You can never have too many cloths, so I have them kind of scattered around all over the place. I also have in here my head torch, which I just take with me everywhere just in case. More cloths under there. You can never have too many cloths. I've also got my GoPro in here, which I'll come onto in a minute, and what that is. And I've got a rocket blower, which is something that I always like to carry with me as well. My GoPro was for a while my main video camera. I had it on a gimbal and it was okay, but it started playing up, so I have replaced it. But I still use this GoPro for odd bits of video, like when I want to film something and I want both hands free, but I want to be close up, because what I do is I use this thing as a mouth grip. It works. I also have this is a wind slayer. It's a foam cover that goes over the GoPro. So if I do need to record audio on this and it's a bit windy out, this works really well in terms of blocking wind noise. But as I said, this became too unreliable and I wanted another solution. And the solution I went for is what's actually recording this video right now. It's a DJI Pocket 2. Okay, so here's the DJI Pocket 2. At the moment it's sitting on a tripod. It's a little video camera on a gimbal. It's got a little screen on it. I went for the Creator Combo, which has an extra piece down the bottom here, which is what's like a do-it-all handle. It's got a speaker built in, but importantly it's also got a wireless connection, which means I can use it with this wireless microphone. The wireless microphone also has somewhere a wind muff that I can put on it. Yeah, almost forgot there's another pocket here. The pocket is actually for the waterproof cover for the bag, but I also use it for spare batteries, for the Canon, for the GoPro, and I have a power bank that I use so I can, if I want to, charge the new video camera on the go. At the end of last year, I changed my computer system. I'd been using an old, very old iMac, and I swapped it out for this. This is a MacBook Air 2020 version with the M1 processor, which uses memory and processor in a much different way to previous versions. Because it's only a 13-inch screen, I obviously wanted a bigger screen for photo editing and video editing, so I paired it up with this, which is the BenQ PD3200U. I did a video on the new computer and the new screen where I actually talked a bit about the performance that I was getting from it, etc, etc. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details on that. If you want to see all of those details, I'll put a link to that video up on the top now. But suffice it to say that after 5+ months, nearly 6 months of using this, it continues to perform extremely well using Lightroom and using Photoshop. I've done panoramas, I've done focus stacking, I do luminosity masks. It performs absolutely flawlessly with all of those things, no problem at all. So very happy with it. I did go for the higher spec version of the computer when I bought it, not because I felt it was necessary for right now, because I think the base spec was fine, but I thought that going for the higher spec would help to future-proof it. The other major change that I made a little while afterwards was I moved from doing my video editing in iMovie, which was just the basic video editor that comes with the Mac, and I went over to using DaVinci Resolve. Now again, I did a whole video on DaVinci Resolve, and I think in that video there's a link back to a video I did on iMovie, so I'll stick a link to that up there now as well if you want to check that out. I have continued to use DaVinci Resolve as my main video editing software ever since that first time I used it. I still have barely scratched the surface of what it's capable of. It's immensely powerful. It has transformed the way that I process my videos. It's a much more efficient way of working, but because it's more capable, it's more complex, it's actually easier to make mistakes and kind of screw things up. So it does require a little bit of extra care, but yeah, I love doing the video editing in DaVinci Resolve now. I still haven't really got to grips with doing color work, color grading and that kind of thing in DaVinci Resolve. It's still kind of something that I want to learn in the coming months, maybe when I get the chance. But so far it works brilliantly. Okay, I think that's it. I think I've covered everything that I need to cover. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please give it a like, share it on social media. Don't forget to leave me a comment, in particular if you've got any questions about any of the gear that I've talked about. If you've enjoyed this video, if you like videos about landscape photography, then check out more of my work and hit subscribe before you go. And as always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch. So thank you very much. And until the next video, bye.